The Battle of Lake Erie, fought on September 10, 1813, was a pivotal naval engagement during the War of 1812 between the United States and Great Britain. This battle not only secured American control of Lake Erie but also marked a significant turning point in the war, influencing subsequent military strategies and outcomes in the region. Background: the War of 1812 was rooted in unresolved issues from the American Revolutionary War, including trade restrictions and territorial disputes. By 1813, the British had established a strong presence in the Great Lakes region, threatening American territories and trade routes. The control of Lake Erie was crucial for both sides, as it served as a strategic gateway for supply lines and troop movements. Forces involved American Naval Command. Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry commanded the American fleet, which consisted of 9 vessels, including his flagship, the USS Lawrence. British Naval Command. The British fleet was led by Captain Robert Heriot Barclay, who commanded 6 warships. The battle began in the early afternoon with both fleets engaging under challenging weather conditions. The British fired first at approximately 11:45 a.m., targeting Perry's flagship. The Lawrence endured heavy fire and suffered significant casualties before Perry made a crucial decision to transfer to the USS Niagara, another vessel in his fleet. Key events. Initial engagement. The British initially held the weather gauge, allowing them to fire first. Perry's ships struggled to close the distance due to light winds. Perry's transfer. After sustaining heavy losses on the Lawrence, Perry transferred to the Niagara and led a direct assault against the British line. Turning point. With renewed vigor, Perry's forces engaged decisively, overwhelming the British ships with concentrated firepower. Outcome: the battle concluded with a decisive American victory. The British lost 40 men and had 94 wounded, while American casualties included 27 killed and 96 wounded. Following their defeat, the British were forced to abandon Fort Detroit, significantly altering the course of the war in favor of the United States. Significance: the victory at Lake Erie had profound implications. It secured U.S. control over Lake Erie, which was vital for maintaining supply lines and troop movements. The defeat forced British forces to retreat from key positions in Michigan and Ohio. It boosted American morale after a series of earlier defeats and established Oliver Hazard Perry as a national hero. Historical impact: the Battle of Lake Erie is often regarded as a turning point in the War of 1812. It not only ensured American dominance over the Great Lakes, but also set the stage for future victories that would ultimately lead to peace negotiations with Britain. The Battle of Lake Erie exemplifies strategic naval warfare during a critical period in American history. It showcased leadership under pressure and demonstrated how control over key waterways could influence broader military outcomes. This victory not only changed the dynamics of the War of 1812, but also solidified America's resolve to maintain its sovereignty against external threats. The Battle of Lake Erie, fought on September 10, 1813, was a pivotal naval engagement during the War of 1812, where American forces, under the command of Master Commandant Oliver Hazard Perry, achieved a significant victory over the British fleet. This battle not only secured American control over Lake Erie, but also set the stage for subsequent military successes in the region. Key strategies employed by Oliver Hazard Perry: 1. Fleet preparation and assembly. Perry's first strategic move involved assembling a formidable fleet. After being appointed to command on Lake Erie, he worked diligently to gather and construct a squadron of 10 vessels, including the brigs Lawrence and Niagara, as well as several smaller gunboats. Understanding that time was of the essence, He coordinated efforts to move his ships across a sandbar that had previously hindered British attacks. This maneuver was crucial as it allowed him to launch his fleet into action before the British could fully blockade his position. 2. Tactical positioning and engagement during the battle itself. Perry recognized that his fleet had superior short-range firepower due to the use of carronades on his ships, which were devastating at close quarters but less effective at long range. He aimed to close in on the British vessels quickly to maximize this advantage. Perry's strategy involved positioning his two largest ships to engage directly with the British flagship Detroit and its companion ship Queen Charlotte, believing that their greater firepower would turn the tide in close combat. 3. Leadership under fire. Perry's leadership was exemplified when his flagship Lawrence sustained heavy damage and casualties. About 80% of its crew were either killed or wounded. Rather than retreating or conceding defeat, Perry made a bold decision to transfer command to Niagara. In a dramatic moment, he rode through enemy fire to reach Niagara, demonstrating both courage and commitment to victory. This transfer of command allowed him to regroup and continue fighting effectively. 4. Breaking the British line once aboard Niagara. Perry executed a decisive maneuver reminiscent of Admiral Nelson's tactics at Trafalgar. He sailed directly into the British line, which caught them off guard and allowed his ships to unleash devastating broadsides against their adversaries. This tactic not only disrupted the British formation but also maximized the effectiveness of his carronades. 5. Effective communication and morale boosting. Perry's famous message after the battle, "We have met the enemy and they are ours," was not just a report of victory. It served as a rallying cry that boosted morale among American forces and citizens alike. His ability to communicate effectively with both his crew and military leaders was instrumental in maintaining focus and determination throughout the conflict. Oliver Hazard Perry's strategies during the Battle of Lake Erie were multifaceted, combining meticulous preparation, tactical ingenuity, bold leadership, and effective communication. His victory not only secured American naval dominance on Lake Erie but also played a crucial role in shaping the outcome of the War of 1812, leading to further successes in subsequent battles. Perry's actions exemplify how strategic foresight and decisive leadership can alter the course of history in military engagements. The Battle of Lake Erie, fought on September 10, 1813, stands as a pivotal moment in the War of 1812, significantly influencing the conflict's trajectory and outcome. This naval engagement not only marked a decisive victory for the United States, but also had far-reaching implications for American strategy, morale, and territorial integrity. Background and context. The War of 1812 arose from a combination of factors, including maritime disputes, trade restrictions imposed by Britain, and British support for Native American resistance against American expansion. The control of the Great Lakes was crucial for both the United States and Britain, as it provided vital supply lines and strategic military advantages. Prior to the battle, the British had established dominance over Lake Erie, threatening American territories in the Northwest and facilitating their control over key locations such as Detroit. The battle under the command of Master Commandant Oliver Hazard Perry. The American fleet engaged 6 British warships led by Captain Robert Heriot Barclay. Despite initial setbacks, including heavy casualties on Perry's flagship Lawrence, he managed to transfer to the Niagara and launch a counter-offensive that ultimately forced the British to surrender. The Americans suffered 27 killed and 96 wounded, while the British lost 40 men and had 94 wounded. Perry's famous message to General William Henry Harrison, "We have met the enemy and they are ours," encapsulated the significance of this victory. The destruction of the British squadron not only secured American control over Lake Erie but also compelled the British to abandon Fort Detroit. Impact on morale and strategy. The victory at Lake Erie had profound effects on American morale, following a series of defeats earlier in the war. This triumph reinvigorated public confidence in the U.S. Navy and military capabilities. It shifted the perception of American forces from being vulnerable to invincible, inspiring troops and civilians alike. President Theodore Roosevelt later remarked on its importance. The victory of Lake Erie was most important. It increased our prestige with the foe and our confidence in ourselves. Strategically, controlling Lake Erie allowed American forces to launch further offensives into Canada and reclaim territories lost earlier in the war. It enabled General Harrison to conduct successful campaigns against British allied Native American forces in the region. The defeat of British naval power on Lake Erie effectively curtailed their ability to mount significant offensives against Ohio and other key territories. Long-term consequences. The Battle of Lake Erie solidified U.S. control over the Great Lakes for the remainder of the war. This dominance was crucial during subsequent engagements on land, particularly in the Niagara Peninsula Campaign in 1814. The victory also played a role in dismantling Tecumseh's Confederacy, which had been a formidable obstacle to American expansion into native territories. The Battle of Lake Erie was not merely a naval engagement. It was a turning point that reshaped the War of 1812's dynamics. By securing control over Lake Erie, it bolstered American morale, facilitated territorial recovery, and laid the groundwork for future victories that would ultimately lead to an end to hostilities with Britain in 1815. This battle exemplifies how naval power can decisively influence land warfare outcomes and alter national trajectories in times of conflict. The Battle of Lake Erie, fought on September 10, 1813, during the War of 1812, was a pivotal moment in American naval history. This engagement not only secured American control over Lake Erie, but also significantly impacted the broader conflict against British forces. However, the American fleet faced numerous challenges leading up to and during the battle. Understanding these challenges provides insight into the strategic and operational difficulties encountered by Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry and his forces. Challenges faced by the American fleet. 1. Preparation and resource limitations. Ship construction and armament. Before the battle, Perry was tasked with assembling a fleet to counter the British presence on Lake Erie. The American fleet consisted of 9 vessels, including brigs like the Lawrence and Niagara, which were heavily armed with carronades. In contrast, the British fleet had a numerical advantage in terms of guns, carrying 63 compared to the Americans' 54. The construction of American ships was expedited compared to their British counterparts, which faced delays due to various factors including resource shortages and construction quality issues. Crew composition. Both Perry and his British counterpart, Captain Robert Barclay, struggled with crew shortages. Perry had to supplement his crew with inexperienced militiamen and volunteers from General Harrison's army. This lack of experienced sailors affected the operational effectiveness of the fleet during the battle. 2. Weather conditions. Wind challenges. The weather played a critical role in the battle's dynamics. On the morning of September 10, light winds hampered both fleets' movements. Perry needed favorable wind conditions to bring his ships within effective range of their carronades, which had a limited range compared to the British long guns. The initial wind conditions allowed Barclay to hold a tactical advantage, as his ships were better positioned to engage at long range before Perry could close in for effective combat. 3. Tactical maneuvering engagement strategy. Perry's strategy relied heavily on closing the distance between his ships and the British fleet to utilize their carronades effectively. However, due to light winds and poor maneuverability, his flagship Lawrence endured significant damage before it could respond effectively. The delay in bringing his larger vessels into action allowed Barclay's forces to inflict considerable damage on Perry's fleet. Communication issues during the battle. Coordination among Perry's ships became problematic. The Niagara, another key vessel in Perry's fleet, failed to advance as expected during critical moments of engagement, leaving Lawrence exposed. This lack of synchronization among vessels highlighted the challenges faced by naval commanders in managing multiple ships under combat conditions. 4. Casualties and damage control. Heavy losses. The Lawrence suffered severe damage early in the battle, with many crew members incapacitated or killed. Reports indicate that only 8 men remained capable of duty by the time Perry transferred command to Niagara after hoisting a new flag. The high casualty rate among experienced sailors further hindered operational capabilities. Damage management. Perry's ability to manage damage aboard his flagship was critical. Despite being battered by enemy fire, he demonstrated resilience by transferring command and continuing to engage effectively with remaining forces. However, this situation underscored the vulnerability of ships in naval engagements when subjected to sustained enemy fire. The Battle of Lake Erie exemplifies the myriad challenges faced by naval forces during wartime. From preparation and resource limitations to weather conditions and tactical execution, each factor played a crucial role in shaping the outcome of this significant naval engagement. Ultimately, despite these challenges, Perry's leadership and determination led to a decisive American victory that altered the course of the War of 1812 and secured control over Lake Erie for the United States. Understanding these challenges not only highlights the complexities of naval warfare, but also honors the sacrifices made by those who fought during this pivotal moment in history. The Battle of Lake Erie, fought on September 10, 1813, stands as a pivotal moment in the War of 1812, marking a significant turning point for the United States. Under the command of Master Commandant Oliver Hazard Perry, the American naval forces achieved a decisive victory against the British fleet. This triumph not only secured control over Lake Erie but also had profound implications for American morale and national pride. In this speech, we will explore how the victory at Lake Erie influenced American morale and national pride, examining its immediate effects and its lasting legacy. The context of the battle. Before the Battle of Lake Erie, the United States faced a series of military setbacks that had severely dampened national morale. The British had captured Detroit and were threatening American territories in the Northwest, leading to fears of invasion. The American ground forces had suffered humiliating defeats, and the public sentiment was one of despair and uncertainty about the nation's future. Perry's mission to Lake Erie was thus not just a military operation. It was a desperate attempt to reclaim lost territory and restore faith in American capabilities. The victory at Lake Erie. Perry's fleet engaged 6 British warships under Captain Robert Heriot Barclay in a fierce battle that culminated in a complete American victory. The British squadron was captured, marking one of the few instances in naval history where an entire fleet surrendered. Perry's famous message to General William Henry Harrison, "We have met the enemy and they are ours," encapsulated the significance of this victory. It was not merely a military success. It was a rallying cry that would resonate throughout the nation. Immediate effects on morale. Restoration of confidence. The victory at Lake Erie provided an immediate boost to American morale. After experiencing a string of defeats, this triumph instilled confidence in both military personnel and civilians alike. It demonstrated that the U.S. Navy could stand up to the formidable British Royal Navy, reversing perceptions of American weakness. Symbol of unity. The victory served as a unifying force for Americans. In a time when divisions were prevalent, Perry's success fostered a sense of national pride and collective identity. Citizens rallied behind their military heroes, celebrating their achievements as victories for all Americans. Encouragement for continued resistance. The Battle of Lake Erie encouraged further military engagement against British forces. It inspired troops and citizens to continue fighting, believing that victory was possible. This newfound resolve contributed to subsequent successes in the war. Long-term impact on national pride. The significance of Perry's victory extended beyond immediate morale boosts. It played a crucial role in shaping American national identity. Establishment of naval power. Emergence as a naval force. The victory at Lake Erie marked the emergence of the United States as a credible naval power. It showcased American ingenuity and resilience, laying the groundwork for future naval engagements and establishing a legacy that would influence naval strategy for years to come. Cementing control over strategic territories. Control over Lake Erie allowed American forces to reclaim territories in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, which had been under threat from British forces and Native American allies. This territorial security was vital for westward expansion and solidified U.S. claims over these regions. Cultural legacy. Heroic narratives. The battle gave rise to heroic narratives surrounding Oliver Hazard Perry and his crew. These stories became part of American folklore, celebrated in literature, art, and public memory as symbols of courage and determination. National celebrations. The victory contributed to national celebrations and commemorations that fostered pride in American achievements. Events honoring Perry and his crew became common, reinforcing collective memory around this pivotal moment in history. Influence on future generations. The legacy of the Battle of Lake Erie influenced future generations' understanding of patriotism and sacrifice. It became an example for later conflicts, instilling values of perseverance and unity in times of adversity. Conclusion. The victory at Lake Erie was more than just a tactical achievement. It was a defining moment that reshaped American morale and national pride during one of its most challenging periods. By restoring confidence among citizens and soldiers alike, it fostered unity and encouraged continued resistance against British forces. Moreover, it laid the foundation for America's emergence as a naval power while contributing to cultural narratives that celebrated heroism and resilience. As we reflect on this significant event in our history, we recognize its enduring impact on our national identity, a reminder that even in moments of despair, courage can lead to triumph. Inspiring generation.